Test 6. This is the IELTS listening test. You will hear a number of different recordings and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions, and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 parts. At the end of the test, you will be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. Now turn to Part 1. Part 1. You will hear a conversation between the director of a childcare centre and a parent who want to enrol his child in the centre. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 6. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 6. Good morning. Welcome to the Early Learning Childcare Centre. How can I help you?
Good morning. I came across the advertisement for your childcare centre last week, and I'm calling to get some details. I'm thinking of enrolling my daughter.
OK. What do you want to know, sir?
Well, I've learnt from the brochure that there are different types of caring, and I'm interested in the short day one. How much is the cost?
Well, it depends on the age of your child. For children over the age of 2, we charge $30 a day, and for those younger than 2, you have to pay $37.50.
Does it include meals?
Well, I'm afraid not. You have to pay extra for them, but we offer you free care for 20 hours weekly. It used to be 10 hours, but this month we extended the length of time as a special offer for our clients.
Oh, that will be of great help. OK, that's about the fee. Then may I know more about your centre? Something about the children's activities, the staff, etc.?
OK. We offer a diversity of indoor activities which cater for children of different ages. For example, painting with watercolours, singing, dancing, games, etc. Moreover, when the weather is good, we always take children to our playground and organise different programmes in the open air.
That's great. Outdoor activities are essential for children. What about the teachers? Are they experienced?
Of course, all teachers in our centre have relevant working experience of at least 3 years and specialise in primary school education.
Great. Then they must be professional in dealing with children. Another thing is, I've heard from other parents that they can receive a report from their caring centres every weekend about how their children perform during that week. And I wonder, is there anything like that in your centre?
Yes, we provide that too.
Great. Then I want to enrol my daughter as soon as possible.
Well, I'm afraid we have no vacancy at the moment, and you can't join until the beginning of September because one child will finish caring at the end of August.
I see.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 7 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 7 to 10. Then I will talk about our staff. All of our centre's members are well trained so that they will take care of your children in every aspect. For example, when doing activities with special needs, our staff will prepare all the necessities for children, like aprons in the painting class, sunglasses and sun cream when playing outside in a sunny day.
It's great that you can consider that. I thought we had to prepare for these by ourselves.
You must provide something. A family photo. Many children may miss their parents, especially during the first week, so our staff will take photos of every child in case they need them.
Right. Apart from the professional knowledge of caring, are there any other requirements for your staff?
Well, actually, when we do the recruitment, the priority we consider is the general health of the staff, so each applicant must provide a health certificate from the doctor.
Yes, I agree it's essential. I've learned about your centre and I'm pretty interested, but I still have to discuss it with my wife.
Of course. Then I'll give you the contact detail of our centre, and if you want to register, you can call us or even have a visit if you like.
Okay. What's your address?
It's number 75 Calliope Avenue, that's CALLLIOPE, Walkie.
Okay, number 75 Calliope Avenue.
And the telephone number is 47896354.
Okay, that's everything I want to know. Thank you very much.
You are welcome. Bye.
Bye.
That is the end of part 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers to part 1.
Part 2. You will hear a radio program introducing a holiday resort to visitors. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 16. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 16.
Welcome to our radio program, Travel with Me in Australia. I'm Anna, the presenter of the radio show. In today's session, I will introduce a fantastic place to you, the Coconut Beach Resort, which was newly built and opened to the public several months ago. I visited the resort last week and had a wonderful time there. Now I will give some details. First of all, who is the target group? As it is a beach resort, it's not suitable for backpackers, of course. With little houses alongside the beach, this resort is the best place to spend time with your beloved one. I know several newlyweds booked cabins there to spend their honeymoon. However, it isn't an ideal destination for families with several children because it may be beyond the budget. About the accommodation, you can choose from different types of rooms, and the price differs a lot. Take the bathing facilities, for example. I booked a room with a spa bath for the first 2 days, which is the most cost-effective one. But for the 3 days left, I changed the room and lived in the one with a private pool. It was my favourite, I had to say. Every night I could relax in the pool, which is so personal and secluded. And the third option is a room with a private beach, which I want to experience next time. The resort has various facilities catering to the needs of different visitors. There is a golf course, and if you want to play, you can either hire the equipment on the course or buy it in the golf shop. If you're going to bring some snacks and drinks and relax in the open air, you can go to the picnic area, which was extended recently. The good news is that a horse ranch was added to the resort, so you can try horse riding if interested. You can also visit a range of attractions, like the farm, waterfall, etc. I went to the town on the first day to enjoy the local food and talk with the local people. Then the next day, I joined a tour group to the rainforest. It was my first time seeing a rainforest, and I was struck by the thick vegetation and diverse species, so I recommend it to you. If you like, you can even explore the rainforest. Walking among the densely covered forest, you can find different species of plants and animals. It is an exciting activity for both young and old, so all the people who have been there loved it. Don't worry, you won't get lost, as a guide will lead you throughout the exploration. The most popular attraction is called the Sound of the Birds. It used to be open at weekends, but it was always crowded with people. As a result, it has changed the schedule and put it on the last 2 days of the weekdays. I think it will give visitors a better experience.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 17 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 17 to 20.
Besides the recreational facilities, I'd also like to introduce you to some other facilities in the resort centre that may be useful. First, it offers a transfer service. You don't have to rent a car or take a taxi when you arrive at the airport. A bus will pick you up and take you directly to the resort. It leaves every 24 minutes, and there is no extra charge. For coffee lovers, there is a cafe in the centre, and it opens from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. If you want to reserve a guided tour of the attractions, go to the tour booking office, which is located next to the cafe. However, the tourist shop is being refurbished and isn't open at the moment, so if you want to buy some souvenirs for your families or friends, maybe you have to go to the town. The last thing I want to mention is there is an Aboriginal tribe near the resort, and if you are interested, there is a visit every Wednesday. Maybe some of you have learnt Aboriginal history or Aboriginal traditions at school, like traditional dancing and blanket weaving. But this time you can experience by yourselves, appreciating Aboriginal rock painting and even talking to well-known painters. What's more, a local herbalist will introduce you to the herbal treatment, which is commonly used in the Aboriginal tribe. It is an educational visit, and I'm sure you will learn much about the Aboriginal tribe. Okay, that's all I want to introduce today. If you want to know more exciting holiday resorts in Australia, please wait for our program next week. Bye.
That is the end of Part 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers to Part 2.
Section 3. You will hear Sally and Mike, two students, and their professor talking about their classwork. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
Hello, Sally and Mike.
Hello, Professor.
Welcome to the third meeting of our after-school club, where we discuss topics from the syllabus in order to help you to understand your classwork better. Now, I hope that you've read the notes I gave you last week on the ancient African traditions, as this will be the focus of our discussion today. Who can tell me how they were able to recognize different stars?
Did they measure the distance between them?
No, Sally, I'm afraid that's incorrect. Mike, do you know the answer?
Historians used to think that the ancient Africans recognized stars by observing the manner in which they affected each other, but further research showed that they used the location of the stars in order to distinguish one from the other.
Well done, Mike. Very good. Can either of you tell me anything about the Wayaka people?
They have a lot of money, but do not trust banks to keep it safe. They believe that it's in their best interest to help themselves, not assist others. Instead, the tribe looks after their own finances and generate income from lending money to others in low-interest loans.
What problems do the Africans suffer from?
They used to suffer greatly from drought. However, they have now developed clever ways of overcoming it by moving to higher land. There are, however, far more predators in these mountainous areas, so it is vital that the Africans learn how to protect themselves in this new environment.
Yes, that's right. Also, compared to more developed countries, the Africans are less concerned with their international status, which I find interesting.
Very good. What else are the local people concerned with?
Unlike other, poorer tribes, they have plenty of nourishing food, and they are able to afford vaccines that prevent them from catching diseases.
They historically lived in the west of Africa, although later they were chased off their land by other tribes competing for food and water. It is their hope that they will eventually be able to return to their original homeland.
Why has the financial condition of the African people deteriorated?
Despite their modern transportation system, they find it very difficult to trade because their tools are not sophisticated enough to mine minerals from the land. They have permission to engage in these commercial activities, so once they have the right tools, they will be able to develop a very large income from trade.
Do you think that this new income will stop Africans suffering from starvation in the near future?
Unfortunately, I don't think so. They should be able to start trading next year, but they will only have enough income to start growing sufficient food and crops to support the local people in the long-term future.
Yes, that's correct.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now, listen and answer questions 27 to 30.
There are many charities from developed countries that are helping to ship food to African countries in order to feed the starving. Unfortunately, it is difficult to transport a lot of food to the right places, but Africans are very good at sharing and making sure that everyone gets something to eat.
African governments are also starting to pay more attention to the needs of their people, They have been directing a lot of money to help build schools in the more impoverished villages as a part of their new education plan, which is fantastic. This means that, hopefully, all African children will be able to attend school daily without having to walk long distances.
Yes, absolutely. Do you remember any other information from your class notes?
Historically, the tribes in Africa often used to migrate across the country in search of food and water. They would live in tents that were easy to dismantle and transport to other locations.
That's true, but now they are being encouraged to settle down in one area so they can establish colonies and build facilities for themselves, such as houses and schools. Some villages have even developed specific customs. For example, the Wayaka people consider it impolite if you do not bring gifts when visiting someone.
Bravo! You've both contributed fantastic points to our conversation. That concludes our session for today. I'll see you next week.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 4. Section 4. You will hear a talk on the research of the sensory systems of different species. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second lecture in our series on animal senses. Today I'll be comparing the sensory systems of different species and discussing how these senses enable them to explore their environment. When it comes to the sense of smell, you may think that human beings have powerful and well-evolved sensory systems. However, some animals have a sense of smell that is far more powerful than ours. Dogs, for example, have a sense of smell that is 40 times greater than a human's and can distinguish 220 kinds of smell. Some animals can even smell odours that are undetectable by the human nose, such as carbon dioxide. There are also animals that have a relatively weak sense of smell. For example, there are species of beetles that can recognise the odours of certain plants but not others. The bee is an interesting example to examine in reference to smell because they experience this sense via their antennae. Bumblebees have stings, but it's rare that they actually use this weapon. When a bee feels threatened, it will use its legs to signal and warn others about the threat before it stings. This is called a signalling posture and involves the bee lifting its two back legs into the air. Within any hive there is a hierarchy with the queen bee at the top. The queen bee is able to control the colony by monitoring its movement through her feet. The queen bee is the only reproductive female in the entire colony, and she is also able to sting multiple times, unlike the worker bees that will die if they sting. In the insect world, scent can also be used to facilitate mating, as females decide whether or not to mate with a male, depending on the quality of his scent. One such example of this is the female butterfly, who will only mate with the male butterfly that produces the strongest pheromones. This is how the species ensures that only the best genes are perpetuated in order to create the strongest offspring. Next, we move on to the hearing sense of beetles. Interestingly, beetles do not have ears, but instead use their feet to detect vibrations caused by sound. This is particularly useful when searching for food among the trees in which they live, as they are able to detect the location and movement of their prey by monitoring vibrations in the woodlands. The final sense that we'll be looking at today is sight. Snakes are a particularly interesting case study, as they do not see shapes and colours as humans do, but instead hunt their prey by detecting the heat radiating from their mouths. This makes them incredibly effective predators, as they are able to zero in on their prey very quickly and efficiently. From a distance, a snake is able to locate the heat radiating from a mouse, for example, and upon moving closer will be able to determine its body shape. This can help prevent the snake from attempting to attack prey that is too large for it. Once a snake has killed and eaten its prey, it goes into a state of hibernation, whereby all of its energy is directed towards digesting the food stored in its stomach. Depending on the size of the snake and its prey, this hibernation can last from hours to days. Once fully fed, a large snake will not need to eat again for the next couple of weeks. During the breeding season, however, female snakes will feed more frequently. The heat detection of a snake is very complex, and can be even more effective than the vision of a human. It not only uses heat to determine the location of its prey, but before it commits to hunt, it will also use the heat to calculate how much distance it has to travel in order to reach it. This prevents the snake from wasting energy hunting prey that is too far away to catch.
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers. That is the end of the listening test. In the IELTS test, you will now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet.